Let me tell you about two men who lived in the same town, breathed the same air, and ended up in two completely different universes.
The first one is Joel.
Joel taught high school chemistry for 30 years. Same school, same classroom, same slightly broken window near the periodic table that the district kept promising to fix. He drove a Camry that was 12 years old. He ate the same sad little sandwich at his desk every single day, the kind that makes you a little sad just looking at it.
And everybody who knew him quietly assumed he was just barely getting by.
A nice man, a humble man, a man who clearly never quite figured out the money thing. Then Joel retired, and that's when people found out, almost by accident, that he was sitting on more than $1.2 million. Joel had committed what might be the one unforgivable sin in American life. He looked completely normal while being quietly, enormously rich. No boat, no watch, no performance. Just a chemistry teacher with a very healthy balance sheet and a sandwich he probably could have upgraded. And I want you to sit with how strange that is for a second. We have decided as a culture that wealth is supposed to be visible. It's supposed to have a logo on it. So a man who was actually rich, genuinely, provably rich, spent 30 years being pitied by people who had a fraction of what he had. Nobody threw him a parade. Nobody wrote about him. He just showed up, taught the electron configuration of sodium, and drove his ancient Camry home. The wealth was real. The performance simply wasn't. Now let me tell you about Trevor. Trevor lived across town. And here's the twist. Trevor out-earned Joel every single year for 3 straight decades. Not by a little, by a lot. If this were a race about income, Trevor lapped him. Today, you can find Trevor standing on the deck of his boat. It's a nice boat. He still owes money on it, and in a detail so perfect I couldn't have invented it, he named the boat the Freedom. And there he is, on the Freedom, refreshing his banking app, staring at a retirement account that holds about $40,000. Same town, same decades. One of them is a millionaire. One of them is refreshing an app, hoping the number changed. And the gap between them is so boring, so unglamorous, it's almost insulting. There's no secret inheritance, no lottery ticket, no crypto miracle. The difference is a set of small, quiet, deeply unsexy habits that nobody makes a movie about. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what those habits are, why the system makes them so hard for most people, and what you can actually do about it. So stick around, because this one matters. But first, I have to burn down a comforting little lie, because it's the lie that keeps people stuck. You may have seen the headline. The average American household is a millionaire. It sounds amazing. It sounds like maybe we all quietly made it. And technically, on paper, the mean household net worth in the United States is around $1,059,000. Here's the problem. That number is a magic trick. Let me show you the trick. Picture 9 regular people sitting in a bar. Normal folks. Some savings, some debt, nothing wild. Now, Jeff Bezos walks in and sits down. Suddenly, the average net worth of everyone in that bar is around $40 billion. On paper, this is now a room full of billionaires. And yet, not one of those 9 original people can actually afford to close out the bar tab. Averages don't care about reality. One giant number drags everyone up with it. That's exactly what's happening to the country. When you hear that the average American is a millionaire, what you're really hearing is a handful of enormously wealthy people lifting the entire number into the sky. Consider this. The top 1% of Americans owns about 31% of all the wealth in the country. The bottom half owns roughly 2.5%. So saying the typical American is a millionaire is a little like the top 15% wearing the whole country as a costume. This is the part that quietly does damage, by the way. Because when you hear that the average household is a millionaire, and you look at your own account and see nothing close to it, you don't blame the statistic, you blame yourself. You assume everyone else got the memo you missed, but there was no memo. The number was inflated from the very top, and the comparison was never fair to begin with. So if the average is a fantasy, what's real? The real number is the median. That's the person standing at the exact middle, where half the country has more and half has less. And the median household net worth is about $192,000.
Better than the horror stories, right? Hold on, because a huge chunk of that number is home equity. It's the value locked inside a house you still have to live in. You can't eat your kitchen.
You can't spend your hallway. Strip the house out and look at the actual liquid, spendable cushion for the middle of America, and the number drops to about $66,000. That's it.
That's the buffer between the exact middle of this country and a genuinely bad month. So when we talk about wealth, let's stop talking about the fantasy and start talking about the real people. And that brings us to the most misunderstood person in America, the actual millionaire. Forget the picture in your head. Forget the trust fund kid, the tech founder in a hoodie, the guy who bought the right coin at the right time. Researchers actually studied this. One of the largest studies ever done looked at 10,000 American millionaires, and there are about 24 million of them in this country. What they found should be printed on a poster in every classroom. 79% of them received exactly zero inheritance. Zero. 89% are first-generation rich, meaning they built the entire thing from scratch. 1/3 of them never once earned a six-figure salary in a single year of their whole working lives. Not once. And 93% credited their success not to genius, not to timing, but to plain, unglamorous consistency. Where did they come from? Mostly ordinary public state universities. Not the elite schools with the ivy on the walls and the famous names on the diplomas. The regular ones, the kind with a commuter parking lot and a mascot nobody outside the county has heard of. And the top 5 professions among American millionaires are not what you'd guess either. They're engineer, accountant, teacher, manager, and attorney. Read that again. Teacher is on that list. Which means, statistically, the person grading high school chemistry quizzes is more likely to become a millionaire than the doctor doing your annual physical. Joel wasn't a fluke. Joel was the pattern.
And I love this because it quietly dismantles the story we tell ourselves about why we're not rich. The story is usually about luck or connections or being born into the right family or catching some once-in-a-lifetime wave.
But the data says the opposite. It says the road to $1 million is embarrassingly ordinary. It runs straight through a public university, a normal middle-class job, and about 30 years of doing the same unremarkable thing on repeat. Which is either the most boring news you've ever heard, or the most hopeful, depending on how you look at it. So how does a teacher outbuild a high earner? The answer comes down to 2 completely different kinds of rich, and understanding the difference will change how you see everyone around you. The first kind I'll call income statement affluent. These are the Trevors. They look wealthy. Big salary, big house, nice truck, the whole show. But their net worth is basically a rounding error because everything that comes in immediately goes right back out to fund the lifestyle. Watch what happens when Trevor gets a $12,000 raise. It doesn't turn into wealth. It turns into a $400 a month truck payment, a slightly nicer apartment, and better dinners out. The raise evaporates. It gets absorbed, invisibly, into a bigger life. 6 months later, Trevor doesn't feel richer. He just has nicer stuff and the same empty account. The second kind I'll call balance sheet affluent. These are the Joels. They look aggressively normal. Modest car, nothing in the driveway worth stealing. But their net worth is enormous because they organized their entire life around keeping the money instead of showing it. And when Joel got a raise, he did the single most boring thing imaginable. He nudged up an automatic transfer, the kind that quietly pulls money out of checking before he ever sees it, and then he forgot it existed. That's it. That's the whole magic act. He never got the chance to spend it because it was gone before it ever felt like his. That's the real fork in the road. Not how much you make. What happens to the money in the 90 seconds after it lands? Now, here's where I have to be extremely careful, because it would be so easy and so wrong to turn this into a lecture, to wag a finger and say, see, just be more like Joel. Because the truth is, for a massive number of people, there is no raise to quietly hide. There's no surplus to sweep into an account. And I refuse to pretend otherwise. Let me show you the brutal math of just surviving right now. Start with retirement. You'll hear that the average 401k balance is about $168,000. But you already know the trick, right? The average is the lopsided bar again. Look at the median 401k. The person in the actual middle, and it's about $44,000. And for the household standing right on the doorstep of retirement, ages 55 to 64, the people who are supposed to be most prepared, the median balance is only about $85,000. $85,000 for people who are almost out of paychecks. That's not a nest egg you can retire on. That's a nest egg that skipped a few meals and is afraid to open its mail.
How did we get here? Look at the savings rate. Across America, the personal savings rate is hovering somewhere around 3%, 3 cents out of every dollar. Nearly 6 in 10 Americans could not cover a surprise $1,000 expense. More than a quarter have no emergency savings at all, none. And I want to slow down here because 3% isn't a statistic, it's a feeling. It's checking your bank balance before you tap your card at the grocery store, doing that quiet little prayer at the reader. It's standing in the school pickup line, doing silent arithmetic, trying to figure out if the field trip money and the electric bill can both survive the same week.
It's lying awake at 2 in the morning, wondering if the check engine light can wait until payday, because it has to wait until payday. So when some guru in a nice chair tells these families to just skip the lattes, I want to throw something, because for a huge number of households, the cushion was already gone long before anybody thought about coffee.
You cannot budget your way out of a math problem that doesn't have enough numbers in it. Okay, so that's the people with no room. But what about the people who do have a little room, a little surplus?
Surely they're fine. Not so fast, because even when there is money to invest, humans have a remarkable talent for tripping over their own feet. Here's the strange part.
Over the last couple of decades, the average investor actually trailed the market by more than a full percentage point every single year. In one recent year, the gap was more than 8 points.
Now think about that. They were invested, they were in the market, and they still lost to it. How? Emotion.
That's the whole answer. People buy when everything's soaring because greed feels like optimism, and then they panic sell the moment the market drops because fear feels like being responsible.
So they buy high, sell low, and lock in the exact worst version of every cycle. They capture the fear, and they miss the recovery.
And missing the recovery is fatal because of one of the weirdest facts in all of investing. Almost all of the market's gains come from a tiny handful of explosive days. And those days love to hide right next to the scariest crashes, usually just when everyone has fled. Watch this. If you put $10,000 into the market 20 years ago and never touched it, not once, you'd have roughly $72,000 today.
But if you got scared and happened to miss just the 10 best days out of 20 years, 10 days, your final number gets cut by more than half. 10 days out of thousands.
That's the entire ballgame. The reward doesn't go to the smartest person in the room. It goes to the one who managed to sit still. And time, it turns out, is the one thing you can never buy back. The broad American stock market has historically returned about 10% a year, roughly 7% after you account for inflation. So let's say you want to hit $1 million by retirement at that 7%. If you start at 30, you need to put away about $610 a month. Wait until 40, and that jumps to about $1,300 a month. Wait until 50, and it explodes to over $3,200 a month. Look at those numbers. Every decade you wait doesn't just add to the cost, it roughly doubles it, because the money isn't the real ingredient. Time is. Compounding only runs on years, and once a year is gone, it's gone for good. Waiting is the single most expensive thing you can do, and it never sends you the bill until it's too late. And this is why I get a little frustrated when people treat investing like it's about being smart. It really isn't. The 30-year-old putting away $600 a month isn't a genius. They're just early. They handed the machine the one thing it actually needs, which is decades, and then they got out of the way. The 50-year-old scrambling to find $3,000 a month isn't dumb either. They just have less runway, and every year that passed quietly raised the price of admission. The market doesn't reward brilliance, it rewards patience that started a long time ago. So the answer is just start early and sit still, right? Well, that's the individual answer, but I would be lying to you if I stopped there, because for millions of people, the game is rigged before they ever sit down at a table. And we have to talk about that honestly. Start with what I'll call the locked door.
The single most powerful wealth-building machine most people will ever touch is the workplace retirement plan, the 401k, with its automatic investing, its tax breaks, and best of all, free matching money from your employer.
It is genuinely close to magic, and it is completely unavailable to about 42% of full-time workers. And guess who gets locked out? It breaks down almost perfectly along the lines you'd expect. Among the lowest earners, about 79% have no access to a plan at all. Among the highest earners, only about 18% lack it.
So the people who most desperately need a boost are the ones standing outside the locked door, while the people who need it least walk right through. It's like a government program that hands out free umbrellas, but only to the people already standing indoors. Then there's what I'll call the tilted floor. Since about 1980, wages for the typical worker have barely crawled forward. Meanwhile, the price of the three things you cannot opt out of, housing, healthcare, and college, have gone completely feral. Here's just one number to feel it. A home used to cost around 3 times a household's yearly income. Today, it's over 5 times. So the surplus, the leftover money that previous generations used to quietly invest, the money that made Joel possible, has been almost entirely eaten alive by the basic cost of having a roof, a body, and a degree. And that leads to the cruelest part of all. When the economy booms, you'd think everyone would rise together. They don't, because booms only reward the people who already own things, already own stocks, own property, own assets. As I like to put it, you can only ride the wave if you already own a surfboard. And that's exactly why the gaps, including the enormous dollar gap between typical white families and typical Black and Hispanic families, tend to get wider during good times, not narrower.
The wave lifts the people who were already floating and splashes right past everyone standing on the shore. So I don't ever want you to walk away from this thinking it's simply about willpower, about lattes, about not trying hard enough.
For millions of people, the difficulty isn't a character flaw. It's the architecture of the building, and you cannot willpower your way through a wall that was designed to be there. 2 things can be true at once.
The habits genuinely work, and the system genuinely makes those habits harder to reach for some people than for others. If we only talk about the first part, we're preaching. If we only talk about the second, we're surrendering. The honest answer holds both. And yet, after all of that, here's the part that I find almost funny. The actual strategy, the thing that turned a chemistry teacher into a millionaire, is so simple it's somehow less exciting than assembling a piece of flat-pack furniture. Ready? Here it is. Step 1. Buy a low-cost index fund, the kind that just quietly owns basically the entire market, so you never have to guess which company wins. Step 2. Put money in every single month, automatically, so you never have to feel brave, so the decision is already made before your emotions can vote. And step 3, the hardest one by far, do nothing. Don't sell when it drops. Don't get clever. Don't try to outsmart the thing. Just leave it alone and let the years do the work. That's it. That is the entire secret. It fits on an index card. Now, I know some of you are listening to this thinking, that's lovely, but I have $0 to point at any index fund right now. And I hear you. So let me be clear about what I'm actually asking. If you genuinely can't save today, the goal is not to hate yourself. It's not a moral failing. It's a math problem, and the numbers just aren't there yet. The goal, for right now, is simply to understand the game so you're ready. Because life does change. A raise comes. A car finally gets paid off. A side income starts trickling in. And in that exact moment, a little sliver of margin opens up in your life. You will face the single most important financial decision you'll ever make. You can do what Trevor does and let that new money quietly inflate into a nicer lifestyle you'll forget about in a month. Or you can do what Joel does and point it straight at the compounding machine before you ever get used to spending it. That's the whole thing. That's the difference between the 2 men we started with. Not income, not luck, not genius. Just one quiet decision made over and over for 30 years. Choosing to actually be wealthy instead of merely looking like it. Joel spent 3 decades being quietly, boringly rich. Trevor spent 3 decades looking rich on a boat he doesn't own. And when the music finally stopped, only one of them got to keep the freedom he named the boat after. So here's what I want you to do. If any part of this shifted something for you, hit that subscribe button, because I make videos about this every week, and I don't want you to miss the next one.
Give this video a like so it reaches somebody who needs to hear it. And I genuinely want to know, down in the comments, are you building a balance sheet or are you funding an income statement?
Be honest, I read every one. I'll see you in the next video.